Hi everyone and welcome to a new tutorial. If it's your first time here, welcome. My name's Barclay Loggie and today's tutorial is a lovely bracelet. Keeping it quite simple, using some of the OGs in the shapes. So sometimes with all these brand new shapes that are constantly coming out in the beading world, I tend to kind of forget those that I first used, but I've gone back a bit today. And I've used superduos, so a double drilled shaped bead, and then just regular seed beads. I've used size 11s, size 8s, and I used a handful of size 15s to add on the clasp. So without further ado, here is the bracelet that I am going to show you how to make. As always, we'll start with a quick run through on the materials. So this is the one I originally made, and I'll pop all the colours that I've used for both the bracelets because I'm going to make it in a different colour with you today. I'll pop all the colours in the comments below this video tutorial. So this red one here, the SuperDuos that I used are called Red Wine. They've actually got a lovely glow to them, a real Bordeaux rich red. And today, the superduos that I'm going to use, I'm back with one of my favorite colors. This is the turquoise green color. And then the seed beads, we're using an 11, an 8, and then a tiny amount of 15s. In the red bracelet, I used champagne gold. And in the turquoise bracelet, I'm using Duracoat galvanized silvers. Then the only other thing that you will need is a clasp. Now you could, it's up to you what you want to use. I've used a toggle and I will probably use a toggle again on this one because I could attach the toggle in the central part through that middle strip of the bracelet. But you could use a sliding magnetic tube clasp that's got multiple connection points, and you just line it up. You can see that the 3 connection points is actually quite a good size for the width of the bracelet. Then I am using a size 12 beading needle, and I have got Fireline in the crystal color. I'm using the 6-pound weight, but everybody has a personal preference for beading thread, so that's really just if you're new, it's kind of a gauge of where to start. And this little tool here, if you've not seen it before, that's a thread zapper, which is going to snip my threads. If you're looking at the project and thinking, oh golly, there's so many teeny tiny beads and it looks way too complicated, it's not. And that's the whole point of my video tutorials, is to really break it down and show you step by step so that you can see that is actually not as difficult as it looks. And I always say, if you know the starting point, then things become easier. So for example, a bracelet like this, which is quite wide, this is 7 inches long and it's about 1 inch and a bit wide. I have made it in parts. So I've beaded one strip, I've beaded a second strip, and then I've joined them together. And that's what I'm going to show you to do. The first thing that you'll need to do is get your Fireline or your chosen beading thread onto your needle. With regards to the length that you put on your needle, I always say you should work with a length that is comfortable for you to use, because there's nothing more frustrating than getting tangled up in knots. You can always add in length of thread at a later stage. So I've got my Fireline onto my needle, and I'm going to start with the 11s, and I'm going to pick up 4 of them. So that's 4 of my little 11s, and I'm going to move them down towards the end of my thread, but I am going to leave about a 10 centimeter, let's say 15 centimeter tail at the end that I can weave away. If you're a seasoned bead weaver and you're a pro, you can get away with weaving away a much shorter length of thread. So I've got my 4 on my finger there, and I'm just going to pass my needle back up through all 4, bring the thread around, and I'm going to pass through the first 3 again, and this is just going to form my little circle, bring those beads together, and you'll see that I've got my tail thread exiting one side and my working thread exiting on the right hand side. Everything we do in this initial stretch of beading is going to be worked in sets of 4. So I've got 4 11 seed beads there. The next sequence of beads that I'm going to pick up are superduos and size 11s. But I'm already exiting out of an 11, and that's going to be my first 11 for the next set of 4. And I'm going to pick up one superduo, my second 11, my second superduo, my third 11, my third superduo, my fourth 11, and my fourth superduo. And I'm now going to pass back through that 11 that's sitting there. That was my number 1 11. But I need to go through from the opposite side. So let's just zoom in quickly here so that we make it nice and clear. My thread is exiting the base of that 11, and I'm going to pass through that 11 from the top to the bottom. And pull my thread all the way in. Now you will have comfortable ways of holding your work. I tend to work this way, so I'm just flipping it over, and I need to now pass through the superduo, the 11, the superduo, and the little 11 that is on the right hand side of my beadwork, so that I can continue working in a strip. So there you have the original 4, then I picked up my 4 superduos, and I'm now exiting a little 11, and it's another sequence of 4, this time just the 11s. We're now repeating how we started. There's my first 11, so I'm only going to pick up another 3, and again I'm going to pass through it from the opposite direction to where the thread is exiting. So the thread is exiting from the base, and I'm coming in through the top of the 11. Pull your thread in tight, and now you want to bead through your beads so that you're exiting this 11 on the side, ready to continue your pattern. So I'm going through just the 2 size 11s there. And now I'm going to do the superduo sequence, remembering that my first 11 is already sitting there where my thread is exiting. So I'm going to pick up my first superduo, my second 11, my second superduo, my third 11, my third superduo, my fourth 11, and my fourth superduo. And sorry, I know you couldn't see me doing that because I'm zoomed in to show you the bead path instead. So this time my thread is exiting at the top of that 11 beads that I'm using. So I'm going to go in from the opposite side, from the bottom to the top. And there is my second sequence of my superduos. Now I need to pass through my beads, through the superduo, and you're always passing through the holes that you've used. We're leaving the second holes empty for now. So I'm going through the superduo, the 11, the superduo, and I want to be exiting this 11 on the side there. So if you can't pass through them all at once, you just pass through them one at a time, but you want to make sure that you're passing through all the beads, because otherwise you will have excess thread showing. So here we come through the little 11, and always just tightening up my threads as best I can. That's my tail thread. Let's get it out the way. So again, we're back to this middle part section now where we've got the 4 11s, and I've already got one there, so I'm just picking up another 3. My thread is exiting the base of the 11, so I'm coming back through that 11 from the top. And I'm going to pass through 2 so that I'm exiting the 11, which is closest to the edge in which I'm beading. Time for another superduo sequence. So I'm going to pick up one superduo, an 11, a second superduo, another 11, a third superduo, another 11, and one more superduo. So 4 superduos and 3 11s, because my fourth 11 is sitting there. Thread is coming out the top. I'm going in from the bottom and through. And then I'm going to bead through the superduo, the 11, the superduo, and I'm going to be exiting this 11 on the edge here. And that is how you are going to continue. Now for my 7-inch bracelet, I did 17 of these sets of 4 superduos. So I'm going to continue now, and then I'll come back to you when I get near the end. I have just added my 17th set of 4 superduos. So as I said, to make a 7-inch bracelet, including the clasp, I've done 17 sets of 4. So in total, to make the entire bracelet, you will have used 136 superduos. So it's not that many. I think it's less than half a tube. So now I've finished on a set of 4, but I actually want my end to match my beginning. So I'm going to end with 4 11s. So I just need to pick up another 3 and pass back through that 11. And because I'm not beading any further, there is no need for me to bead through these 2. I'm now going to bead up and down each side, and I'm going to be filling in all these empty holes of the superduos so that they don't flip about in the design. This will hold them more stable. So there I am, having come out. Let's zoom back in again. No, actually, I'm going to keep it out so you can see what I'm picking up. I'm coming out of the fourth or the first little 11 that sits in between where those 2 superduos meet. And I'm now going to bead up to this empty hole here in the superduo at the end. And to do that, I'm going to pick up 2 of my size 11s. And I'm just going to pass the needle through that empty hole. You might need to fiddle a little to get the beads to sit straight there. So there are my 2 sitting on the edge. Now, the gap between the pairs of superduos is going to be filled by 3 beads. It's going to be filled by 1 11, an 8, and an 11. And I'm going to pass through the next superduo. And then to jump across to the next pair, I'm only going to pick up 1 11. And try and not get my fingers tangled up in my thread. Going to zoom in, and I am now between the 2, so it's a sequence of 3. I'm going to pick up an 11, an 8, an 11, and I'm going to pass through the next superduo. And then to hop across to the next pair, I'm just going to pick up 1 11 and go through the next superduo. Now don't be worried if you see a bit of thread, like here you can see thread coming out. The more we bead in this design, the tighter everything gets pulled and that thread starts to disappear. So we're now in the middle of another pair, that's 3, an 11, an 8, an 11, 3 beads to pick up before passing through the next superduo. Oops, sorry. And then we're going on to another pair, and we're just going to pick up 1 11 to go between the pairs of superduos. So we're going 3 1 3 1 3 1 all the way down, and I'll meet you at the other end. So I've come all the way down this side, adding my 11s and 8s, and if we zoom in, you'll see that above a group of 4 11s, we just have 1. And where we've got 1 11, we've got the 3, the 8, the 8s with 2 11s either side. So it's very easy to spot if you've made a mistake. There on my group of 4 11s, and there's just 1 11 sitting above it. And here are my single 11s with the sequence of 3 seed beads above. Having completed one side, we're going to do exactly the same down the other side, but we need to get there first. So I'm going to pick up 2 of my size 11 seed beads, and I'm going to come through the seed bead that's sitting closest to the superduos, and then another 2 seed beads, just like we did on the other side, to come through the empty hole of the superduos on the other side, and then I am ready to go again. So between the first pair, I'm going to pick up an 11, an 8, and an 11, 3 beads, pass through the next superduo. Then to bridge the gap to the next pair, I'm just picking up 111 and passing through the superduo. And I'm going to do the same the whole way down, 3 1 3 1, just repeating what we did on the other end. I've got down to the other side, and I just need to connect this empty hole up to the little 11 that sits snugly between the two superduos, and I'm doing that with my 2 11s and passing through that 11 that sits in between. Right, so that is part 1, if you want to call it, complete. Don't end off any of your threads yet, because you might be using them to add on the clasp, and actually on my working thread I've still got quite a lot of thread left which I might use in joining up my pieces together. So part 2, you need to start again basically, and if that means going back to the beginning of the video, then just hit back to, or rewind and go back to the start, because you're going to make another strip identical to this one that we've just done. And a little tip that I should have given you right at the very beginning, I'm so sorry I didn't. These superduos with their 2 holes, the standard colors are fine, but some of the more fancier coatings, the coating can sometimes clog up the holes in your superduos. And my advice to you is to just check that each of the 2 holes in each superduo is clear, because when you come back and you're doing your beading, it's very frustrating if you can't get your needle through because one of the holes is clogged up with a coating. So you're going to make another strip, a second strip identical to this one, and then I'm going to show you how to join them together. There we have part 2 complete, and now we're going to join these 2 strips together to complete our bracelet. So I've taken the one that I've still been working on, and I've beaded through the beads at the top here and through the superduo and through that 11, and I'm exiting the 8 on this side. So I am now going to pick up my second piece, and you want to kind of hold them side by side like this. And we're going to connect the 8s together. So the 8 from the left hand strip to the 8 on the right hand strip. And I'm just going to pick up 111, pass through that 8, and then 1 more 11, and pass back down through the 8 on the left hand side. But I'm going to keep going. I'm going to go through the beads because I want to exit the next 8 on the left hand side. So I'm going to pull that through. There's my first join at the top, and I'm continuing through my beads on the left hand side, making sure I pass through them so that there's no excess thread showing, and I'm exiting that 8 on the left hand side. I'm going to pick up 111, and I'm going to pass up through the 8 on the right hand side. Pick up 1 more 11 and pass down through the 8 on the left hand side, and I'm going to keep passing through the beads till I'm exiting the next 8 on the left hand side. But I'm just going to stop here briefly to show you. So there, the first 2 connection points have been made, and you are just going to do exactly the same thing the whole way down. So I'm passing through my beads and I'm exiting the 8 on the left hand side. I'm going to pick up an 11, and I'm going to pass up through the 8 on the right hand side. Pick up 1 more 11 and pass back down through the 8 on the left hand side. And so I'm going to continue connecting each set of 4 superduos to the beaded strip on the opposite side, and we're going to do that the whole way down. So how is that for connecting 2 strips of bead weaving together? A really simple but I think really effective way of doing it. It's kind of the less is less approach, and those of you who know me know that I'm more than often a more is more kind of girl. So part 4, I will be showing you how to add on your chosen clasp. As I mentioned, I'm going to be adding a toggle, but you could use one of these multi-connectors, and those 2 little peaks there made by the size 11 make for 2 good connection points, and then you'll want another one to come from the middle here where you'd have to add in extra beads. But I'm going to use my toggle. And when you're adding in the loop, you don't need much extra space. It's when you're adding in the bar, you need a bit more maneuverability. So I would use a few more beads on the bar side. But let's do the rounded toggle first. My thread is exiting the 11 on the edge of the size 11 here. Oh, I'm sorry, on the edge of the SuperDuo. I really need to put my teeth in a bit better when I'm talking to you. So I'm coming out of the 11, and I'm going to just pick up, actually I'm going to be using my 15s now, because they are little, they're tiny, and I'm just picking up 3 of my little 15s. Because I don't want to add too much extra length to my bracelet. This is the perfect opportunity. If your bracelet is measuring up slightly short, when you're adding in the clasp is when you can add length to your bracelet. So I'm popping the edge of my toggle in, and I'm going to come back through that top 15. So the 15 that is sitting closest to my toggle. And then I'm just going to match the other side. So I'm going to pick up another 2. And I'm going to pass through this 11 that is sitting closest to the SuperDuo. If I can get my needle in. Things are getting a bit tight in there now. There we go. And there is the first half of my toggle connected. Now I'm going to weave my thread away through the bead path and then end off my thread with a double half hitch knot. So I'm just going to come through some beads here. And I'm coming through. I'm not going to go too far. A double half hitch knot is you take your needle under the thread bridge between the 2 beads that you're at. You form a loop, and then you pass your needle through the loop and you pull tight. That's a half hitch. So for a double you need to do it twice. So again, I'm going underneath the thread bridge between the 11 and the SuperDuo, forming a loop, passing my needle through the loop and pulling tight. And then I can pass my needle into that SuperDuo, and it will pull the knot that I've just tied into the SuperDuo. And then when I snip my thread off there, I'm not going to snip through the knot I've just tied and have everything unravel. It's kind of protecting that knot by pulling it into the SuperDuo. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that with my tail threads on the other side. And I'm going to add in the bar in exactly the same way, but instead of adding 3 15s like I did here, I am going to add in 5, just so that there's a little more wiggle room to get the bar through the rounded toggle. So there you have it, you beautiful people. I hope you've enjoyed the tutorial. If you have, a thumbs up would be great. If you have any questions, pop them in the comments below and I will get to them as soon as possible. If you make them in your own colors, I mean, it's amazing how different something looks in a different colorway. So if you make them in your own colors, please won't you tag me either on Facebook or Instagram, Joe Barclay Loggie, because I'd love to see them. So if you haven't subscribed yet and you've enjoyed this one, remember to hit that little subscription button. It doesn't cost you anything. It just means that you won't miss out on any new content that I upload to YouTube. Thank you so much for all of your time, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.